Hello, my name is Trenton Robinson, and this is my Personal School Retrospective for PPA 592. I love my school experience. It was very formative to me. I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to grow up in the same school district my entire K through 12 experience. I grew up in Whitefield, which is a small suburb outside of Colorado Springs, just to the south of Colorado Springs, closer towards Pueblo. The demographics of Whitefield and Whitefield School District 3 are largely a military community. A good portion of our community is military, either from Schriever Air Force Base, Peterson Air Force Base, or from Fort Carson, which is the Army base just to the west of us. The community is also very diverse, and that was important to me during my schooling experience as well. Whitefield School District is many of their schools, if not all of them, are a majority minority school. So whereas the plurality may be white students, there are a majority of Latinx, Black, Asian students attending the schools as well, which I think helped give me a better perspective on my education as I went along. I attended 4 total schools. I attended Kin Elementary for just kindergarten. I honestly don't remember anything about Kin Elementary. And then I attended Venatucci Elementary, which is the elementary school I spent 1st through 6th grade in. Venatucci is actually named after a guy named Nick Venatucci. He was a local farmer in Whitefield, had a big farm known for its pumpkins, and he was a massive member of the community. He gave out pumpkins every fall to students, kids who would come by. I don't believe he charged for them or anything like that. It was just part of who he was as a person. Venatucci, my experience was overall positive. I do remember, not necessarily having the resources that, looking back on it, that I thought we would. We had one computer lab that we were able to take a typing class maybe once or twice a year to kind of get us that perspective. Just like many elementary school students, a lot of my experience is through recesses. And I do remember that my 5th grade going into my 6th grade year, we got a grant for the district that improved a lot of the school facilities. For Venatucci, what they used their portion of the grant on was a new playground, but it wasn't an actual full revamp of the playground. We still had the rusty jungle gym and the big giant metal slides that you burned yourself on, but instead they took maybe a 20 by 20 square away from the other playground and built a new adaptive playground that just complemented it. And so it kind of created this nice disparity between you have the big playground where everyone plays and all of the old bad equipment. They didn't do anything to fix those, but they did build a tiny nice new one that sometimes kids can go play on. After elementary school, I attended junior high. It was a junior high at that point, Watson Junior High. What I remember about Watson is it was a very poorly managed school, very poorly run. A lot of fights, not a lot of school control by the administrators. Let's say they didn't have a lot of influence over the dynamics of the school, especially the dynamics of the students. Watson was interesting because I was actually I attended 7th and 8th grade there, and that was the last year that they were actually considered a junior high. By the time I left, when I went to 9th grade, went to high school, they actually transitioned it to a middle school, so it's now Watson Middle School, which includes 6th, 7th, and 8th, which had a lot of impacts on the density of the students in the school. The school was already pretty packed packed. The lockers we had, we shared. There wasn't a lot of room. The hallways were pretty crammed, and they added an entire grade level to the school. And I didn't attend it, but both of my younger brothers attended Watson as a middle school, and they said that it was incredibly cramped. And they added 2 mobile units, which are essentially just trailers parked outside that house probably 2 classrooms each, and to kind of spread everything out. But that didn't change the congestion around places like the cafeteria or the gym or anything like that. After I went to Watson, I went on to do high school at Whitefield High School. You can see Whitefield High School is an older school. Both of my parents attended and graduated from Whitefield High School. The community itself is pretty tight-knit, and it's pretty wrapped around the high school itself. Whitefield used to be a pretty poor, pretty violent area of the city. A lot of gang violence, a lot of drugs. By the time I was going there, it has largely turned into more of a typical suburb. But it held on to that reputation, and students there internalized it, I feel. Students internalized this idea that, like, we are, we're a lesser school, and so there wasn't as much effort put in. And to Whitefield's credit, to the administrators' credit, they tried. They went out and they got resources and everything like that to try to help out. We got a influx of laptop carts, computer carts that you could rent out for a classroom or for a class period. I didn't attend high school that long ago. I graduated in 2014. But I was, at that point, most of the stuff we turned in was still on paper. We didn't type much of anything. We maybe had 1 PowerPoint a year that we would have to do. But because a lot of students didn't have the resources at home to be able to work on it, we didn't have enough at school. We didn't have things like one-to-one devices, which are when the school provides you with a computer or a tablet. We didn't have any of that, so most of our stuff was still on paper. They did try. They went out and they got us a grant, which was really awesome, that allowed all of our AP classes, if you know anything about AP, the advanced placement classes, the way it works is it's taught almost like an honors course, an advanced course, and then at the end you take a standardized test based off of the national curriculum for that, and if you pass it, you get college credit. And so they went out, normally the tests are about $100. They went out and got a grant and made each test $10. And that really increased the enrollment in AP classes and also the amount of students that would take AP classes and then be able to take the test because they could afford it. And then, it was a little less of a risk because if you fail, you're not out $100, you're just out $10. And so that was really important. That helped me take a lot of AP classes. I actually took enough AP classes because of that to knock an entire year off of my undergrad by the time I went to CSU. But Whitefield was fun. I do want to share an anecdote that I think kind of exemplifies this idea of like how students and the larger city of Colorado Springs, and I guess the state overall, treated Whitefield. What it was, I was a bandee, played saxophone, and I was in the jazz band. And our band teacher, Mr. Coldgrove, he was one of my favorite teachers of all time. He was wonderful. He made sure we had opportunities to go and perform and compete across the state. And so we got the opportunity to compete in a jazz fest in Thornton, I believe. And we went and we had a full big band set up and we played and it went really well and we got good scores, but we performed and the band director who's overseeing it, whoever the band director was for the school that was hosting, came up and complimented the band and complimented Mr. Coldgrove and said, sir, your band sounds great and you've done a lot of great work with an inner city school. And he looked back and he saw a band that was had diversity in it, and it had a number of Black students, and a number of Latinx students, and a number of women. And he saw that and he said, "Wow, what a good job to work with an inner city school." I promise you, we're not an inner city school. We're a pretty typical suburb. And yet, because of the diversity that we had and because of the reputation Whitefield had, we were assumed to be an inner city school. And so that was something that I took to heart. I took seriously, and I really helped me reflect on my schooling experience and the experience of everyone else at my school. So that is my retrospective. I'd love to talk more during the class. I will absolutely talk more about my experience in schools, and talk a lot about especially Whitefield right here. So thank you all. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of what this is supposed to look like. I'm verbose. I went long. That's totally fine. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me or shoot me a text or give me a call. Totally help you out. Thank you.